Hello there. My name is Sophia, and I'm excited to share my journey of learning English with you. I hope my story will inspire and help you in your own language learning adventure. Chapter 1: The Beginning of My Journey. It was a beautiful summer day when my English learning journey truly began. I was on a train, heading to a language exchange program in a small town just outside London. As I sat there, nervously clutching my ticket, I couldn't help but overhear two women chatting animatedly in English. Their words flowed so effortlessly, like a gentle stream, and I found myself captivated. Gathering all my courage, I decided to introduce myself. "Hello," I said hesitantly. "My name is Sophia. Learning English." The women smiled warmly and slowed down their speech. We managed to have a short, albeit basic, conversation. As I struggled to express myself, I realized how much I still had to learn. But their kindness and encouragement lit a fire within me. When we parted ways at my stop, they gave me their contact information and invited me to visit them in England someday. That brief encounter changed everything. From that day on, I dedicated myself to improving my English skills. I started small, translating short texts, watching English movies with subtitles, and practicing common phrases. It wasn't easy, but I persevered. 6 months flew by, and I could feel my progress. However, I knew I needed more. That's when I made a life-changing decision. I would go to London to fully immerse myself in the language. Chapter 2: A New Beginning in London. Arriving in London was both exhilarating and terrifying. The city buzzed with energy, and English was everywhere, on signs, in conversations, even in the air itself. I enrolled in an English language school, eager to start my intensive learning journey. My first day of class was unforgettable. Our teacher, Miss Thompson, was young, vibrant, and had an infectious enthusiasm for teaching. As we introduced ourselves, I was amazed by the diversity in our classroom: students from Brazil, Japan, Russia, Spain, and more. We were all united by our common goal: to master English. Miss Thompson's teaching method was unlike anything I had experienced before. "Forget about textbooks," she said with a smile. "The best way to learn a language is to use it. We'll be focusing on practical, everyday English." She explained her philosophy. Language is a tool for communication. We learn it to express our ideas and connect with others. So, we'll be doing a lot of speaking, listening, and real-world practice. This approach was both exciting and intimidating. I was used to memorizing vocabulary lists and grammar rules, but Miss Thompson challenged us to think differently. "Don't just study the language," she advised. "Live it." Chapter 3: Expanding My Vocabulary. One day, a classmate asked Miss Thompson about the best way to learn new words. Her answer surprised me. "Reading," she said confidently. "Statistically, people who read regularly in a foreign language learn vocabulary twice as fast as those who don't. Aim for at least 30 minutes of reading every day." She then shared a technique that I found incredibly helpful. 1. Choose texts that interest you and match your level. 2. When you encounter an unfamiliar word, look it up in a dictionary. 3. Don't write the word down. Instead, try to understand it in context. 4. Pay attention to how words connect in sentences. I decided to give it a try. I started with simple short stories and gradually moved to more complex texts. To my surprise, I began recognizing more words in my daily life, on advertisements, in conversations, even in songs on the radio. Chapter 4: Perfecting Pronunciation. As my vocabulary grew, I became more aware of my pronunciation. I often felt self-conscious, worried that my accent made me hard to understand. That's when Miss Thompson introduced us to the shadowing technique. Shadowing is simple but powerful, she explained. Find a recording of a native English speaker and try to repeat what they're saying, mimicking their pronunciation and intonation as closely as possible. She demonstrated by playing a short podcast and repeating after the speaker, matching not just the words, but the rhythm and tone. We all tried it in class, and while it felt awkward at first, I could see its potential. That evening, I found a YouTube channel with clear, slow English dialogues and spent an hour shadowing. My mouth felt strange, forming unfamiliar shapes, but I persisted. Over the next few weeks, I noticed a significant improvement in my pronunciation and speaking confidence. Chapter 5: Grasping Grammar Naturally. Grammar had always been my nemesis. I struggled with complex rules and exceptions, often freezing up when trying to construct sentences. Miss Thompson's approach to grammar was refreshingly different. For those of you who want to speak English fluently, she said, don't worry too much about studying grammar rules. Instead, focus on using the language naturally. You'll absorb correct grammar through exposure and practice. She recommended immersing ourselves in English media, books, TV shows, podcasts, to internalize grammatical structures naturally. For those preparing for exams, she suggested focused study using past exam papers. I decided to trust this method. I started watching English TV series, first with subtitles, then without. I joined a book club at the school, challenging myself to read and discuss novels in English. Gradually, I found myself using correct grammar instinctively, without overthinking. Chapter 6: Real-World Practice. About a month into my stay in London, I decided to look for a part-time job to practice my English in real-life situations. I found a position as a barista in a busy cafe near my school. My first day was terrifying. I fumbled with orders, mixed up change, and struggled to understand some accents. But my colleagues were patient, and regular customers often engaged me in small talk, helping me practice. One day, a customer complimented my English, saying he could hear improvement each week. That simple comment boosted my confidence enormously. I realized that making mistakes was part of the learning process, and most people appreciated my efforts to communicate. Chapter 7: Overcoming Challenges. Despite my progress, there were still moments of frustration. Sometimes, I'd freeze up in conversations, forgetting simple words. Other times, I'd misunderstand instructions and make embarrassing mistakes. During one particularly challenging week, I confided in Miss Thompson. She listened sympathetically and then shared some wisdom that changed my perspective. Sophia, remember that every language learner goes through these struggles. It's like learning to play an instrument. At first, you hit wrong notes and struggle with rhythm. But with practice, you improve. Don't be afraid of mistakes. They're stepping stones to fluency. Her words resonated with me. I started viewing each mistake as a learning opportunity rather than a failure. This mindset shift made a world of difference in my progress. Chapter 8: Measuring Progress. As the weeks turned into months, I could feel my English improving, but I wanted a way to measure my progress objectively. Miss Thompson introduced us to an online language level test. This test will give you an idea of how many English words you know, she explained. Take it monthly to track your improvement. I took the test and discovered I knew about 2,100 words, solidly in the intermediate range. This knowledge motivated me to push harder, setting a goal to reach 3,000 words by the end of my stay in London. Chapter 9: The Power of Thinking in English. One day, a new student joined our class. Her name was Isabel, and her English was remarkably fluent for someone who had never lived in an English-speaking country. Curious, I asked her secret. I practiced thinking in English, she shared. At first, it was just simple sentences like, I can speak English or I need to practice more. But over time, I found myself thinking more complex thoughts in English. It really helped me become more fluent and confident. Inspired, I decided to try this technique. I started by narrating my daily activities in my head in English. It felt strange at first, but gradually became more natural. I noticed that this practice helped me respond more quickly in conversations, without mentally translating from my native language. Chapter 10: Reflecting on my journey. As my time in London drew to a close, I marveled at how far I'd come. From the nervous girl on the train who could barely string a sentence together, I had become someone who could confidently navigate life in English. My advice to fellow English learners: 1. Immerse yourself in the language every day. Read, listen, speak, and even think in English. 2. Don't be afraid of making mistakes. They're an essential part of learning. 3. Find methods that work for you, whether it's shadowing for pronunciation, reading for vocabulary, or thinking in English for fluency. 4. Practice in real-life situations whenever possible. 5. Be patient with yourself and celebrate small victories. Remember, learning a language is a journey, not a destination. Enjoy the process, and you'll find yourself improving day by day. As I packed my bags, ready to return home, I felt a mix of sadness and excitement. Sad to leave London, but excited to continue my English learning journey. I knew that this wasn't the end, but rather the beginning of a lifelong adventure with the English language. So, to all of you out there struggling to learn English, keep going. Your hard work will pay off, and the ability to communicate in a new language is truly priceless. Good luck on your own English learning journey.